Today, I really wanted to ask a very controversial question from you that can help you in your self healing and self loving journey. If we wanted to describe the twin flame chaser in the relationship dynamics, we would say the following. The twin flame chaser is overly emotional, or at least more emotional when we put the chaser in contrast with the runner. And the chaser is going to be more impulsive, more spontaneous, and generally, the chaser is going to be more interested and more invested in the relationship. I would say the primer focus is going to be on the partner and on the relationship. And another very, I would say, like key characteristic in the relationship when we talk about the twin flame chaser is that they have this internal need that they really crave that they feel loved. And what I mean by that the runner really wants to be loved as well. But the key difference here is that when the runner is not loved by the partner, the runner goes away. It's like, you know what? I don't care. You disappointed me. I cannot trust you. I already knew you would be like this. I move away and I am going to find someone who can love me in a way, the way I deserve. But the problem is that the chaser really craves that person, that specific person should love them. That they don't want to switch this person, they want that person to love them. And this love can turn a little bit of an obsession that I do everything for you to get this love from you. And only when there is a like really serious breaking point, that's when the chaser really gives up. But then the problem is because the chaser doesn't go through self-healing, they are very likely to behave exactly the same way in the upcoming relationship as well. So this is something that you have to really pay attention to if you identify as the chaser. And in this video, I'm going to show a very interesting viewpoint that can really explain why you behave the way you behave and why you feel this deep craving and also how you can heal. So generally this can come from two key things. One of them is, of course, this is genetics and of course your parents, because your earliest childhood memories, your earliest childhood experiences will have a huge influence on your neurobiology, because all of these impulses and surges and anger, this is your nervous system. You can feel it in your body. You can shake. You can feel it. You feel like this. I feel so anxious. Where is my partner? What is happening? And you can feel it in your body. That's your nervous system. That's your dysregulated nervous system. But it can come primarily from two things. One of them is that it's already in your nervous system, which means that genetically, maybe it's running in your family, that your nervous system is more sensitive than usual. And that's when some people flip on the other side, that their nervous system is insensitive way too much naturally, and they feel that they are emotionally mature and they are really good. That's not good either. The good thing is that you can be really, really sensitive, but you can balance back in the middle. And the other thing is, when you are in your mother's womb, you already have a nervous system that is evolving and developing. And anything what your mother experiences, your nervous system is like a sponge. It keeps soaking in all the information. And it's very likely that when you are the youngest child, when the relationship is already on a turmoil and there is a lot of drama, a lot of abuse, a lot of shouting, so the mother is already, I would say, like more nervous. It's very likely that the chaser is the youngest child, or the chaser was born when the mother was very, very sensitive. This is just my observation, by the way, because when I see the youngest children, generally they have the addiction, they have the most feminine face, by the way, and they are the more impulsive, or the most impulsive out of, especially when there are three children. That's when you see the biggest contrast amongst the children, that there is like 6, 7, 8 years, I mean age gap between the oldest. The oldest generally has, even if the oldest is the girl, like I'm the oldest in amongst like three kids as well, they usually have a more masculine face as well, and more masculine characteristics. And that's the runner, that they are more detached from their emotions, they are more attached to the rules and duties and stuff like that, and they are more responsible, more rigid. And the youngest is more like this impulsive and dysregulated, because it's not only the part where the mother was more emotional and too much involved in her own pain. It's also that by the time the youngest is born, they kind of feel that they don't have to be that anxious, because generally with the oldest one, they are full of anxiety that, oh my god, something is going to happen. But when they had like the first child and the second child, they already recognize it. They don't have to pay as much attention. The child is going to be okay. So many times the youngest child is more left alone to grow up on his or on her own. More things are allowed. So more the emotional part becomes, I would say, like overdeveloped, because the head part, what you should do, what the expectations are, and all of this anxiety that is in the parent, it's not as dominant. This is just my observation. And another thing I usually say is that's the thing that they more neglect the youngest one, but also on the other side, what we can see is that many times they overly spoil the youngest one, because they realized consciously or unconsciously that they were too strict with the firstborn. They are generally very strict with the firstborn, and they put too much responsibility on the firstborn. And many times when you look into families, the firstborn stop talking to their parents. I would say this is the most common, especially in traditional societies. I see it a lot, that they spoil the youngest the most. So everything is allowed, and they go over the top to do everything. And that's when there is like a huge split, that the oldest just completely detaches from the family and feels like a scapegoat. Unless that's when there is the trick, there is always a difference when who is the boy in the family, because in traditional societies that can really make a huge difference in this dynamics. But back to the chaser. So this is something that you have to really think about as a family dynamics. The other thing I always suggest to look into, not just the dynamics in the family, how you experienced it as a child, but also really look into the 4 attachment types, because the big similarity with you and the runner is that both of you had a childhood wound, and a childhood wound is generally that you had really, really shitty parents. And both of you are full of traumas, but the thing is, you created a very opposite way of dealing with that trauma. And the chaser doesn't really want to let the partner go. Wants closeness really, really fast. And in contrast, the runner is going to be the opposite, that they don't really trust the partner because they don't want to get hurt. So they keep testing the partner, and you never really feel that you are fully close, and you feel it correctly, by the way, because they are just too terrified of letting you close, but at the same time, they don't let even themselves, this really deep inner child self, to come up to the surface. So this is what you see as, I would say, like this coldness or distance that you can experience in the relationship. So these are the two factors you can really think about. So genetics, and then the family dynamics, how your parents were. So this is your childhood, as how these close things really influenced you while you were growing up. You have to also understand that there are different parts of your nervous system and different parts of your brain that become available from you at different times of your life. So your brain is going to be fully developed only at the age 25. So just imagine when you have a trauma at age 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, you don't have a fully developed brain. You can't process that trauma, so that trauma remains within you. So this is something you have to be really aware of. And now we get to the key part, and that's the, I would say, like the last part I really want to talk about. That's the title of this video as well, and this is if you are a social slave. And what I mean by that is that you have to really think about what type of society you have been grown up in, and also what are the things your parents and also your family, your close friends have been talking about throughout your whole life. Because the key problem I see that many people just feel something, but they are unable to take this feeling into individual pieces and examine those individual pieces where those are coming from. And they just feel one thing, but it's coming from so many parts. And if you don't examine them, like the origins, that can really mislead you. Because one of the things, especially if you are a girl, this is going to be really true about you. First of all, your biology is wired to look for a mate. That's something you are going to inherit from our ancestors. This is how your nervous system is. For a guy, it's less likely that the female is, or the relationship is, the primary thing, because they have passed down in the nervous system that it's more like getting the external resources, and the relationship is secondary. And another key thing is this subliminal messaging that we don't really think about. But what are the pictures? What are the things you see around you? And generally when you see achievement or philosophers or doctors or people in the past, they are always males. And when you see a picture with or a painting with a child, it's always with a mother. So this is a very difficult thing. We have to socially break out that there has to be a balance, that we have to have more females in a leadership and in roles where they have a significant change in how we see our reality, how we treat people, maybe in a scientific era. And on the other hand, we have to allow guys or fathers to have exactly the same value as a mother, because in my opinion, it's a huge issue that we females really cry about, that there is no equality. There are not enough female roles or jobs in the workplace where there is leadership. And I totally agree that this is true, but on the other hand, we don't talk about the inequality within the family system. And I'm not saying that all guys will push themselves, that okay, I really want to look after the child, and they are pushed away. I'm saying how we see them in general, because it's the same with females as well, that we don't see as many females competing for those jobs as guys. That's why we have less females, because in general they don't compete as much in the social structure. And that's exactly the same with the guys in the family, that we just got used to this so much. And this is something you have to also really think about, that it's not just this subliminal messaging that we keep seeing in pictures and in movies. Like, if you really remember, nearly every single movie is really about a female chasing the right guy, and that's the whole movie. And for the guy, it's generally becoming the superhero or the some kind of a secret agent, and the female is generally just like a one-night stand. It's never really about the guy is chasing the long-term love. I'm not saying there are no movies about it. I'm saying about the percentage, that how often you see it. And even the messaging, what is the messaging behind it? Generally, the guy is chasing the hottest girl. That's one thing. But the girl is generally chasing the guy who gives gives her the most as of gifts, or gifts are seen as love, or has a lot of money. And then many females would be like, no, 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 we are not gold diggers. Okay, so why is this stupid movie? I've seen it once and I couldn't believe I watched it. 50 Shades of Grey is one of the most watched movies of all time by females. Then Twilight, exactly the same thing. It's the guy has a lot of money, the guy is powerful, the girl is an average girl, has absolutely no experience in anything, knows absolutely nothing. The only thing she does is becomes submissive to the guy. And these are the most watched movies. So we have to really think about how these movies can really influence us. Because as soon as you sit down, this is something we don't learn in school. As soon as you sit down, you switch your critical filter off, you go into alpha brainwaves. So basically anything you watch, your brain is going to take it as a reality, because your brain is not advanced enough, not just yours, mine neither, to make a difference between a reality, a movie, or a vision. That's why, by the way, visualization to overcome internal traumas and problems can be very, very powerful, because the brain is this stupid, unfortunately. So you have to be really mindful what you are consuming in movies, and when you watch them, if you make an internal commentary next to it, or you just soak it in. And the last part of this puzzle piece is what we have passed down through generations. And this is these beliefs that you keep hearing, that females just a little bit over 100 years ago, and even now in some societies it still exists, that they didn't have the right to own property on their own, to have anything under their name. Not that long ago in the Middle East, if you were a female, you couldn't go out on your own. You didn't have an ID. You always had to have your husband or some male companionship next to you to prove that you have some identity. So and this is not that long ago, so this is how crazy this is. So if you believe that this hasn't been passed down still to a certain degree on an unconscious level, then you are delusional. We are not that far away from this type of thinking, and we always just move a little bit away, little bit away, little bit away, that you must have a partner. That's when you are a female. Your mission is to get a partner, to keep the partner, because that proves that you are a worthy female and you have the ability to have children. And if you can do that, then you are a worthy female. For a guy, it's not that. For a guy, it's where are you in the social hierarchy? And the kids and things, it's like, okay, if you have a few, that's fine. And if you have some hot wife, that's fine. But it's not really exactly the same as for the female. For the female, the relationship is number one. For the guy, it's the job and the social hierarchy is number one. And if you have that, the females are going to be available for you. So that's a completely different goal. And if you are a guy who is a chaser, you can be still influenced by the social part as well, because you have to really think about what type of females are you after, or what type of females, what are the characteristics that you really crave, and why. It's for both of you, by the way. Why? Is she really, really hot and you believe that this is what you should have? Because if you have a hot companionship next to you, then it increases your value. But if you are a female and you are with the twin flame runner guy and you are the same, why do you want that person? Does that person give you security? Because maybe that's what you crave. So you have to ask these questions from yourself. And as soon as you have processed these questions, you see where is it coming from. They are going to show your weaknesses. What do you see in yourself that is missing? Because if you crave someone because he or she has a lot of money, it means that you feel maybe that you don't have enough and you want security. And many times we can see this relationship between people, that you have an older, uglier guy with a younger, hot girl. They both get what they really crave within. She wants the security and the stability from the financial part as well, and the guy wants to show off with a hot girl that wow, I've got everything. And then when they are in a relationship, deep down they are both miserable because they haven't picked each other for love. It was just something completely different. It was a very deep insecurity that made them choose each other. And as a last part, you have to also ask this question from yourself. How would you feel if you weren't in a relationship for the rest of your life? And why would you feel that way? What is the trigger point that wants you to be in a relationship? And really skin it down, really take it into as many pieces as you can. What's underneath that? And when you get the answer, what's underneath that? What is that core trigger point? And also sometimes it's lots of different parts that add together, and you don't even really see what is the main trigger that keeps you in abusive relationships. And under abusive, I don't mean that maybe you are hurt or your partner bashes you up, but your partner is not emotionally mature because you are suffering constantly in that relationship. And you really have to question yourself. Why do you allow it? What is your gain in that relationship? And then you say there is no gain. Okay, then why are you in the relationship? Why don't you leave? And when you get that answer, that is your gain. I hope this video was helpful for you. I know it wasn't an easy one, but I thought for a new year, this can be very, very beneficial for you if you work through a few things as a way of self-discovery, because this is how you can become more self-aware. This is how you can give yourself finally that self-love that you haven't received since your childhood. See you in my next video.